how do you even begin to define personal success? How do you define personal success in a way that brings you on the right path and makes you a more fulfilled and also more focused person? When choosing personal success criteria for yourself, there are 4 conditions that you need to fulfill to make it effective. The first condition is that your criteria for success needs to be precise and not ambiguous. If you ask your friend what their definition of success is and they say that they want to be wealthy and healthy, I would say that that is a very ambiguous criteria. I mean, it sounds great, but the problem is that it's not precise enough. Because what does wealthy mean? How much money does it take to make you feel wealthy? Or saying that your success criteria is that I want to have a successful career is also rather ambiguous. Because what does it mean to have a successful career? Does it mean to become a CEO of a Fortune 500 company? Or does it mean to be the best at what you do in your field? Or what does it mean? One example of more precise success criteria would, for example, be creating innovation in robotics in the medical field. Rather than saying, I want to be wealthy, a more precise success criteria would, for example, be having $2.5 million in my account at the age of 50 that allows me to retire early and have the freedom to do what I want. Don't get me wrong, having a precise success criteria doesn't mean that you have to have every single detail fleshed out. It just means that you want this and not that you want A but not B. That you want to be making a living from doing this kind of activity and definitely not that. That you want to be making a living from, let's say, drawing children's illustrations and not from working as a project manager in a multinational company. Having precise success criteria will give you a purpose. The second condition that you need to fulfill when you define personal success criteria for yourself is that these criteria have to be intrinsic rather than extrinsic. And this is all about where your success criteria originate from. Since your childhood to now as an adult, you may have picked up a lot of success criteria along the way that originated from other people. Perhaps you heard your parents say that in order to be a really successful person, you need to have a PhD, let's say, or your cousins or your friends say that in order to be counted as someone really successful, you need to have at least 2 houses that have 4 bedrooms each, or whatever. Just think of what success criteria you picked up from other people. And don't get me wrong, as long as these are things that you yourself actually really want from the bottom of your heart, then there's no problem in adopting them. It only becomes a problem when you uncritically pick up and adopt other people's success criteria, even though it doesn't really mean that much to you. So if you want your success criteria to be intrinsic, meaning that the criteria you set for success really come from your deepest needs and desires from you as an individual, then it might take some soul searching. It might take some time to figure that out. And for that, you need to really ask yourself, what actually matters to me, regardless of what other people think? What do I need to achieve in this life so that I will have no regrets? And once you start doing that, asking yourself and responding really honestly to yourself, then you can come up with the wildest things. You could, for example, come to the conclusion that you'd rather work in an industry that you're really, really passionate about, even though you might earn a bit less in the beginning, than working in your current industry where your pay is really high, but that you really can't stand. You may find out that you'd rather be admired for your artistic skills rather than your engineering skills. If you're really being honest with yourself, you will find the definition of success in the most unexpected places. I found out quite late in life that I'd rather be self-employed, even if that meant that my income would be fluctuating, rather than climbing the corporate ladder and making my way from vice president to senior vice president and probably earning hundreds of thousands of dollars each year, including bonus. So give it a thought. What are your intrinsic success criteria that starting now you should focus on primarily? The third condition to setting your personal success criteria is that they need to be stable and not fluctuating. Tell me if you've ever experienced this. You're scrolling through your Instagram posts and you see a bunch of posts from people you know, friends or acquaintances you haven't talked to in a while, and you see someone just, let's say, got an MBA from Wharton, someone else just won an award in a diving competition, and another person just founded their first startup. And every time you see such a post, it makes you a bit anxious and you're thinking, actually, I'd also like to do that. And then you see another post and you think, oh, maybe that's also something that I'd like to do. If that ever happened to you, then you're not alone there, because it's so easy to get distracted by what other people do. So in order to counter that, you need to come up with a set of personal success criteria that remains stable for as long as possible. So the way you scope success is really important. Here's an example. If you say that your success criteria is, let's say, to earn $10,000 each month, then that could be a success criteria that could be useful for the short term until you've achieved that. But what happens after that? After that, you might want to change your success criteria to become $20,000 and then maybe $30,000. So one thing that you can do to make the success criteria become more stable over a longer period of time is to define it in a way that will hold over a long time. So instead of fixing it to a certain number, $10,000 per month, let's say, for example, your success criteria could be that you want to earn enough money so that you could support your entire family and that you could also make contributions to people who are less fortunate. When thinking of what personal success means to you, it's very important to think about the long term. How can I come up with a definition of personal success for myself that can be useful in the long term? The fourth condition for defining what personal success means to you is super important, which is to set criteria that are holistic and not disjointed. Let me ask you this question. Do you want to be successful just in your career or just with your family life? It's really difficult to choose between the two, right? You see my point? The mistake that many people are making nowadays is that they treat this concept of success as something that's disjointed. They just pick out one area of success, for example, their career, and they focus solely on that and just neglect all other areas of their life. And suddenly, after working very hard, 70-hour work weeks until they're 50 or 60, all of a sudden they're surprised at why they don't have a long-term relationship, they have no spouse, and even their health has gone down the drain. The reality is that you cannot compartmentalize these different areas of your life. Everything is connected to one another. So if you want to have, let's call it, a successful life, you have to achieve a certain level, a minimum level of success in all these different areas, and it cannot be too unbalanced. You need to set personal success criteria in all the different areas of your life, which means family, health, finances, career, spirituality, if that is important to you. Instead of just asking yourself, how much money do I want to make by the time I'm 50? The better question to ask is, what mix of success, what specific mix of success do I want to achieve? Because as I said earlier, there's a price for success. If you spend more time on your career, then you will have less time for your family. If you spend much more time on your family, then naturally you'll have less time to spend on your career. If you work yourself to death, then likely your health will suffer.